Why does she have a pot under her bed? Put your phone on silent. Going. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm doing a part 2 of my get to know me tag, and there's quite a so today I'm doing a part 2 of the get to know me tag, but I thought I would do it with the makeup tutorial so that it's not as boring. But this is going to be more of a sit and chat rather than makeup tutorial type of video. But yeah, I apologize for the noise. I've started filming late and the time is 3:30 now, so there's a lot of traffic and I'm sitting right by the window for the light, so it's quite annoying, but it is what it is. Anyway, so we are going to be answering more questions, some of those which I didn't answer in the first get to know me tag, and also other questions that I didn't get to, and part of the clips got deleted somehow. So yeah, let's get started. But before we actually do that, please make sure that you're subscribed and that you follow me on my socials at P-G. I'll pop it right here, and make sure that you thumbs up this video. So let's get started. I have nothing on my skin right now. It's actually feeling quite dry, so I'm just gonna moisturize it. I'm using the Nivea right now. Like before I put on my makeup, this is what I usually put on my skin because my skin is extra dry right now. It's actually flaking off, so I'm gonna moisturize a bit with it. I'm gonna moisturize my face with it, and my mirror is right here. Also, I'm trying to lay my edges. That's why I have this on. So yeah, so we're gonna start off with the brows. So I'm just combing them and then I'm gonna fill them in, and I'm using a brown pencil. So I'm not doing my eyebrows exactly in the shape that my natural brows are. As you can see, I have a lot of hair that's unthreaded, and I'm not gonna fill all of that in because otherwise it's gonna end up looking very bushy. But I'm just trying to fast forward through this part because it can take a while, especially if I'm talking. Using my eyeshadow palette. This one's from LA Girl. It's called the 130 Pro palette. So as I mentioned, I'm 25 years old and I do have siblings. I have 3 older brothers, and then I have a younger brother and a younger sister. So I only have one sister and a whole lot of brothers. This card is really nice. And my hometown is from a small town in Eastern Cape called Bizana. It's right after Port Edward. When you're coming from KZN, it's Bizana. It's a very small town, and my home is very rural. Like, it's rural area. As rural as it gets, but I really enjoy going home because I find time to just relax and unplug. So yeah, and my parents currently live there, and I get to go home times would I say I go home a year? Maybe 6 times a year, I'm not sure, but I really enjoy going home. My little sister, okay, so my little brother is 15 or 14, I'm not sure, and he's in high school and he thinks he's so cool. He's a proper 2000 kid. And my little sister is in grade 4 and she's such a sweetheart. She is the purest thing I've ever seen. She's such a nice girl. And so my parents still live in Pisana and my sister goes to school there. And I did my primary school and my high school in Durban. I was in a boarding house, which is similar to a boarding school. It's not as strict, you know, but yeah, I think the only difference is that it's not as strict. So I did my primary school at an Indian school in Merebank, that's in Durban. It's in the south of Durban. And I really enjoyed it. I love the Indian culture, I love the food. I think that's where my passion for spicy food came from. So when my parents took us to boarding, when I say boarding school or whatever, I was 8 years old, and I didn't know how to speak English, which was very rough for me. I was 8 years old, I was going to grade 4, and I didn't know how to speak English. So when I got there, like, I could understand what they were saying, but I couldn't respond, you know. So I would just look at them and I'd want to cry. I was always a crybaby. And so, like, after my first day, because my mom brought us there, and then when she was leaving, I was crying. I was like, don't leave, please don't leave. But I mean, it had to be done because my parents didn't want us to receive an education from where we were going, because the school was so bad, you know. So yeah. And so after my first day, I called my mom and I was crying and I was telling her she must come pick me up. Like, I didn't want to have any part of it. And so one time, essentially, what if I still don't like it in March, I won't come back. But she knew that by then I'd be part of the program. And when March came, I couldn't stop speaking English. Like, I was one of those children who would only speak English, and everyone around me was so annoyed of me. And I was just it's funny thinking about it. But yeah, I'm going off topic. And then for my high school, I went to Wentworth Secondary, that is in Wentworth, also in the south of Durban, and that's a predominantly colored school. So I grew up with a lot of colored people around me, with the whole accent and the whole thing I was within. So yeah. And then I also mentioned that I went to the University of KwaZulu-Natal for my university career. So when I was young, I always wanted to be a model. I was so enchanted. I was so enchanted by modeling and the glamour of it all. And when I was in high school, I did actually get to pursue my career or my interest of modeling. A friend of mine helped me and I really enjoyed it. But after high school, I just gave it a break, you know, because there's always so much pressure to be skinny and blah 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 blah. And I'm not a skinny girl, you know. I don't think I'll ever be a skinny girl. And I was just over the you need to lose weight looks and stares and speeches, because I wasn't fat, but I wasn't skinny. I was just like a normal girl. So in university, although I was skinny in university because of how stressful it was, but I decided to focus full time on my study. Oh, somebody asked me, don't I feel awkward vlogging in public? And honestly, I do, especially when I'm alone, because everyone stares and everyone's wondering, why are you filming yourself? What are you filming for, you know? And if you're gonna incorporate like other people into the vlog that you don't know, like if you're filming things in front of you and there are people coming, they just give you like stares of, what is this girl filming us for, type of thing. But I think I've gotten used to it a little bit now than before, because before I used to get like, yo, I'd be so awkward and I'd hide my camera. But now I think I've definitely gotten confident with practice, you know. But if I'm with someone, I'm not scared at all of vlogging, you know. And usually people ask, like if I'm in the shop and I'm shopping or whatever, they'll ask, what is the camera for? And I don't mind answering because I understand the curiosity. Oh yeah, guys, I honestly can't think of any questions, but I was just thinking back to the whole boarding house experience and how it was for me. And it was such like a unique experience. I think there's not a lot of people who go to boarding house. It's just, if you've been to boarding house, let me know in the comment section below, how was it for you. For me, it was just, yeah, I don't even know where to start. So I've stayed in a number of boarding houses, and the very first one that I stayed in, I was 8 years old and I didn't really know how the whole thing worked. So when we got there, it was like a bunch of kids from Eastern Cape. So it was cool because we could all relate to each other, and we had this lady who would look after us, who was our guardian, and she had her own family, so we were all living in one house. And like there was so many of us living there. There were so many of us living there. I can't even explain the numbers to you. Especially because, like, when you run a business like that, I'm gonna moisturize my skin again. When you run a business like that, you should have numbers that you can handle. You know what I'm saying? I don't think you should even have more than 20. 20 is a lot, but in the boarding house business, it's not. So when we lived there, there were so many of us, to the point that the neighbors thought that we were orphans. And the lady who used to work there, her name was Auntie Christina. So she would clean for us and like do our laundry, wash our uniforms after school. And at that time I was a baby. I feel like 8 years old is a baby. And like she would help run the boarding house, you know, like bath time, meal times, lunch preps, and like all of those things. And that lady, yo, she loved to hit us. Like she would westweba. So I'm using the Lancome 10 Eye Doll foundation. I'm just putting it in my hand. It's a bit light for my skin right now. Actually, I don't even think it's the correct shade for me at all. But yeah, so she would, I swear by, like, if you have laundry that you haven't collected, like, basically she just loved hitting us. That's what I think. And like, there were so many of us from living there, but guys, I can't even get into it. Like, it was crazy. There was so many of us living there. And so we left because there was honestly too many of us living there. So we had we got a new boarding house. That was the second one I ever lived in, and it was so much better than the first one because the numbers were much less and the food was better. Like, you can't cook nice food for over 30 people, you know what I'm saying, every day. And there's like way over 30 of us. Like, 30 is a modest number. So when we moved to the second boarding house, there wasn't like a lot of us. We were like a family, you know what I'm saying. There was maybe, I'm gonna say 15. That still seems like a big number, but in boarding house it's not, because there are outbuildings and stuff. But the food was really nice. Like, our guardian, she loved to eat. Like, she loved food. She was a very big woman, so she knew how to cook really well. I think that's where I fell in love with cooking. And she would cook pastas, she would cook prawns for us, she would cook fish for us. Like, food wise, it was the best thing ever, especially coming from the first boarding house that we stayed in. It was really good. But at the second boarding house, I was the one who had issues. So as a child, I was never a very loud child, you know. What can I say? I wasn't like I wasn't out there, and I felt like the lady that we lived with liked to pick on me. Like, she was always on my case, and she would say that I like to be with the big girls, of which we stayed with big girls, so who am I gonna be with? And she had a problem that I liked like girly glamorous things, which I still do up to this day. And we're naggy ledger basically, and I was honestly so annoyed when I left. Because I stayed with my two older brothers, so we always stayed together. But when I left, because they enjoyed it so much, I left and stayed in another boarding house all by myself, because I was just so fed up with how the lady was treating me. I'm not gonna say she was abusive, but she was borderline abusive. Because every day she was just like, Pilela, you like to be with the big girls, blah 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 blah. And it's just like, I live with big girls. Who else am I gonna talk with? Who else am I gonna talk to? You know what I'm saying? And if I'm trying to make myself look nice, she'd be like, you wanna look nice for the boys, blah blah blah. Guys, it was a lot. It was just a lot. And if I wanted to go to church, she would time me and say, be back at this time. And if I wanted to go to the library, she'd time me, be back at this time. And I was never a naughty child, ever. I was never ever a naughty child. Like, I was always a good girl, so it's not like she had reason to do that to me, but she was just always like that towards me. And I didn't like to be micromanaged. I I still don't like to be micromanaged. I don't think anyone likes to be micromanaged. But that was the situation. And then the third boarding house that I went to, I stayed with a relative. That's why actually my parents allowed me to move out there by myself. So it wasn't like I was all alone. So I stayed with a relative, and it was really nice at first. It was nice because there was literally a handful of us. So it was a very close, intimate boarding house. There wasn't chaos. It was like living with your family, you know. But at that time, I was pursuing my modeling, so every Saturday I would go to my agency. We always had photo shoots, workshops and stuff. Like I was very what am I gonna say, I was very proactive. Like I didn't just have random free time with no scheduling, if that makes sense. And after a while, she would have a problem with me going to my modeling agency, of which my parents knew about it, so it just didn't make sense. And she would threaten that she would tell my father, because she was related to my father, and my parents knew everything about my modeling, you know. And if I wanted to wear shorts, she just had a lot of snide comments, to the point that like I stopped wearing shorts at all. I'm gonna contour my nose and warm up my face because I look really pale right now, then it's gonna make sense. So she would make a lot of comments like if you wear shorts you're gonna get raped type of thing. And I was just so tired of her weighing down on my soul. And if I wanted to try new things, she just wouldn't let me be great. I'm gonna say that. She was just always on my case, like I wanted to grow up too fast. I think that's what she was scared of, and I'm sure it was for my well-being. But at times I felt like she was crushing my spirit, you know, to the point where I completely stopped wearing shorts. And I mean, as a teenage girl, that's like your uniform, you know what I'm saying? So as I was saying, so this lady was like always on my case, and there was the whole drama, and it was just like a whole thing. But then after a while I decided to leave. After she said that she didn't fire us, I decided to leave, and I went back to stay in the boarding house that my brothers were at that time staying with. It was another one. So at this point, this was my fourth boarding house. And so there, I think a lot of things happened. There was a lot of girls, a lot of cat fights, like a lot of teams, you know what I'm saying? It was just a very eventful place to live in. Okay, so I think my face is nicely blended now. But I enjoyed living there because of the dynamic and also just getting older. I think one boarding house that I'll never forget, I don't even know how many boarding houses I've lived in, but one boarding house I'll never forget is where the lady we used to live with, firstly her place was really small, and she crammed all of us into like a really small room. There was 12 of us living in one room. So there's like 3-story banks, and it was like a really small place. But like the things that she would do, I feel like we're quite like ale, you know what I'm saying? Because she always favored the boys over the girls. She would always make the boys better food. She would have fries if the girls weren't around. She would have fries, and the boys would be involved and they'd be invited, and we were never considered or invited or included in anything that she'd done. And like, we used to go to youth, which was on Friday, and on Friday evening, and when we would come back, because we'd only eat after we'd get back, and it's like thinking about it. So she would sometimes even hide the food. I remember the one time she made like a nice stew. Like, she cooked crappy food for us, you know, for the most part. We never had nice food staying there. It was always ugly food. And the diet, if you live in a boarding house, you know that it's bread and tea or bread and juice. Like, there's nothing colorful or amazing that you're gonna get, you know. In the morning, maybe we'll eat bread. If we like, we'll have some sort of porridge, oats, whatever. And in the afternoon, you have bread and tea, and it's just plain. And no, she put like margarine, but like those really, really cheap margarines that separate. I don't even know why I'm laughing, because it's so sad. And so the one time she made a stew, like, she made nice food, and for us, she didn't dish up for us. She just gave us, I think, like rice and some random thing. Oh, and dal. Colored people love dal. So the lady was a colored lady, and the nice stew, she hid the pot underneath her bed. So our bedroom was right next to hers. So when we got in from youth, we're like, why does she have a pot under her bed? And she was hiding the curry from us. Like, she didn't want to give us some. She always gave us like the worst food, and the boys had a bride that evening, and like they had nice food, but basically she just treated us like crap, to be honest. And my other friend, I think like a year or two ago, she saw her in town, like they bumped into each other, and she said that she didn't even say hi. My friend didn't say hi to the lady who was our guardian at that time because of how bad she treated us. She said she just looked at her and she walked away. Like, that's how bad it was. We can't even be friends afterwards. She was like a monster to us. Like, she wasn't nice to us at all. At all. And yeah, like, I think the whole principle of growing up in a boarding house is be able to look after yourself and survival of the fittest type of thing, and be careful that you don't get caught out in whatever you're doing or get caught up in the freedom, because the guardians who are supposed to be your guardian don't even really care about you, you know. So if you decide that you're gonna be the girl and live your best life, then you're gonna do that, and then you're gonna face the consequences after that. Like, no one is there to baby you. And I remember there were, in this other boarding house that I lived in, there were a few new girls who had just come from Eastern Cape, and it was their first time in Durban, and I was like, I want to show them around, you know, tell them the do's and don'ts, if you may, and just help them make the right decisions. So the one time we went to our local pool, because I've always loved the water, and I was like just showing them around the area basically. And this girl was in grade 7, of which I think that's a baby, and at that time So at that time I was in grade 10, grade 9 or grade 10, I'm not sure, but I was significantly older than her. And there was these boys that were calling her, and at that time I hadn't dated. I hadn't had any dating experience. So I was like, no, don't go to them, don't go to them, you know, like super papa type of thing. But I wasn't like trying to be essentially what I'm trying to say. But like when we got back to the boarding house, the story was I was jealous that the boys called her and they didn't call me. And like I was interfering in her business, and in my mind I'm just like, you're a child, what business do you have with boys? But since then I just realized that people wanted to live their best lives, you know, and I was like holding her back. And then I realized that I'm no longer gonna give any advice to anyone. Like I'm just not gonna be involved. And fast forward to a few years later, after that whole incident, that girl got pregnant. She got sent back to Eastern Cape. She was failing at school. She wasn't doing well. Why? Because when she got to Durban, it all went to her head, and she just felt like, I'm gonna do the most, but the most actually happened to her, you know. And when you're there to study, you're not there to look at boys and to drink and not to pay attention to your schoolwork, which is essentially what she done. But yeah, that was my boarding experience. But there's always just so much drama. Okay, so my camera switched off, so maybe that's a sign that I should wrap it up. This video is a bit all over the place. I hope it makes sense. I lost my train of thought with the whole get to know me tag, but I hope sharing this experience with you did actually give you a glimpse of me a little bit more, and you feel like you know me slightly more than you did before this. I hope you also enjoyed this look right here. If you do want to see more makeup tutorials, let me know. Although this look, I'm not even sure about it because I wasn't even paying that much attention. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope I'll see you next time. Please don't forget to subscribe and follow me on my socials at PLG, and I'll see you next time. Bye.